Marley from the Energy Boutique with your energy and ascension forecast for Sunday, May 8th to Saturday, May 14th. So last week we jumped into May, started a brand new month with a brand new vibration, a brand new life lesson, of course, revolving around the number 5. 5, of course, is the heart chakra, and many of us have had some hits, had some activations, had some triggers in that particular department since May got started. Of course, we are in eclipse energy. We are in retrograde energy. We had a high celebratory energy day on the very first day of May that many of us did not get a chance to even vibe with because the energy has been very low, very heavy. And of course, we had Venus move into Aries, which for the most part was good because, well, Venus's time in Pisces was a little bit whiny, a little bit cryy, a little bit too all up in the feels. But this dramatic shift in Aries energy is now just very triggering, very aggressive, highly stimulated, very angry, if you will. And with all the other aspects going on, we are definitely feeling that activation in our heart space, in our emotions. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. We had Jupiter sextile with Pluto. That was a pretty big deal. Although it was a highly transformative energy, it actually triggered the shadow part to come out in full force. This last week, we've been building towards the first quarter moon in Leo that we will be having on Sunday, May 8th. But the moon had to go through Cancer energy. Last 2-3 days have been highly emotional, highly triggering, very heavy, very disassociative, very just, I've had enough. And as I'm recording this early Friday, the vibes are still very heavy, very chaotic, hella crazy. And hopefully by the time the moon shifts into this Leo energy, when we are all together here Friday evening in the chat, we will be feeling lighter. We will be feeling brighter. We will have shed this heavy, heavy emotional coat that many of us have been wearing. So what do we got going on this week? Well, we're still in eclipse season. We are still in retrograde season. We're actually going to add to those intensities by Mercury going retrograde, by building towards the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio. But first, we have to get through this first quarter moon in Leo, which is actually going to be a good vibe, a good energy. First quarter moons always give us a quote unquote crisis point. It's more of an action point. We've already gone through the breakdown, preparing for the breakthrough, and the first quarter moon is absolutely this breakthrough point. The breakthroughs that we're having is that we're tired of feeling a certain way. We're tired of dealing with certain circumstances. We are feeling low and slow and sad and depressed, and we're tired of it. And this Leo energy, of course, the heart and soul of the zodiac, brings a fire back into our realm. Shows us where it is that we have to lighten the vibe a little bit, where it is we have to take action in making sure that we're being seen, we're being heard, that we're expressing ourselves fully, that we are tapping into our creativity to come up with some solutions to some problems that have been in our face, in our head, in our heart space, just triggering and activating the lowest and darkest forms of the shadow realm that each of us are definitely facing, especially now in this eclipse energy. We cannot run, we cannot hide, and things are only going to get more amplified as we reach this full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio. You want to talk about shadow work, you want to talk about alchemizing the dark into light, the pain into power, this very transformative energy that we are dealing with right now. This is why things have gotten ugly. We are seeing the worst of the worst. We are seeing the extra push from this 3D realm matrix in order to keep us sucked in. We're going to talk about that here in a second. And we have to understand that there are wars going on in other realms, cleaning up the dimensional realms that many of us are preparing to move into. which means that we essentially have been blocked. We've been banned, if you will, from reaching the higher realms, higher form of intelligence. And that's why many of us are feeling a little bit funky and depressed too, is that we're having a hard time aligning with our higher self, with our guides, with other, forms of intelligence that many of us rely upon in order to make this 3D experience even slightly tolerable. So this week we have Mercury going retrograde. Oh my goodness, like I've been talking about, we got a little bit of a preview from April 26th up until now on what we could expect from Mercury's retrograde. Of course, the brain fog, the confusion, the questioning. We're already seeing, cars breaking down and technology going awry and electricity popping off. So it is a definite precursor to what will be just a hella chaotic retrograde for Mercury, especially taking place smack dab in the middle of eclipse season. Now, on that same day, we're talking about the 10th here, Mercury goes retrograde in the morning. 12 hours later, Jupiter, planet of growth and expansion, is moving out of Pisces and into Aries. Now, this is a big deal for a lot of reasons. Let's break it down. First of all, Jupiter has been at the final degree of Piscean energy since about Thursday morning-ish. And as we've been discussing, Pisces energy is the last sign of the zodiac. Although it is very healing, it is also very heavy. It is the unconscious part of us and the collective. It gets overwhelming. It gets to be too much. Jupiter, of course, likes to magnify and make everything a little bit extra. And in the Pisces energy, we just want to run. We want to hide. We want to numb. We just do not want to deal with reality. So Jupiter's final little chapter here in the final degrees of Pisces, this is why we feel like we're at a breaking point, like we can't take anymore. Like, what's the point of all this? Well, let me tell you. When Jupiter moves into Aries, the very first sign of the zodiac, Jupiter begins a brand new 12, 13-year cycle. Anytime a planet is done with its Piscean chapter and enters into Aries, it's a brand new beginning. It's a fresh, clean slate. It's when we get a little bit of energy back. Of course, Aries energy is fire energy. We've been lacking a lot of fire. And, Jupiter being all about growth and expansion, moving into this Aries energy, wants to really push through the challenges in life. This is like unleashing our inner warrior. We're not going to sit around and cry about it like we have been doing. We're going to get up and fight. And, that meme that always goes around, like, choose violence. Today I'm choosing violence. This is very much indicative of where it is that we're tapping into our individual spiritual warrior, but we're going to want to watch the violence on the greater, grander stage as well. Aries energy, of course, the identity, the ego, and very passionate, but the line between passion and anger is very thin. Yes, we have new desires. Yes, we want new experiences. Yes, we're not just going to roll over and take it anymore. We're going to stand up. We're going to fight. But, all of us aren't on the right side of the battle. So we do have to watch out for those darker force energies, taking the negative side to this Aries energy and really kind of making a mess out of things. We also have Jupiter fresh into Aries energy, very big aspect taking place between Jupiter semi-squaring Uranus, the great awakener. This is definitely going to shake things up. We have to expect the unexpected when Uranian energy is involved. And, our foundations, our lives, our relationships, our egos, our money matters, our homes, everything in this 3D realm is just getting shook up so that we can see what is strong enough to stand the test of times, to house the new vision and the dreams that we're looking to manifest, and what is absolutely crumbling, what is not strong enough to even stand another week, and what we got to get rid of. This is going to be a growth, if you will, in unexpected opportunities that likely will not feel good. It's a huge shakeup, a huge wake up, but it is for our best interest. It is for our evolution, and sometimes we have to be kicked in the butt cosmically and kind of shook up in all the wrong ways before we are willing to see that we do not change, we do not evolve, we do not transform when we sit in the comfort confines of our little comfort zones that we've created. And we should know by now that you're either going to want to roll or you're going to be dragged, because evolution is the name of the game. We have no choice. We are upping the ante. We are jumping timelines. We are jumping dimensions. We are raising vibrations and frequencies, whether we like it or not. So again, the choice comes down to, are you going to roll with the punches, or are you going to kick and scream and cry and be dragged? Either way, we're moving forward. So with all that being said, let's talk about this energy. I myself am in a funk. I myself just cringe, waking up, feeling like it's Groundhog Day, feeling this low ass vibration, this frequency, this blahness. You know, I feel like biologically speaking, you know, many of our physical bodies are showing the signs and symptoms of depression. Why? Well, because we're raising our vibration and frequency to a different state of consciousness. And once you have this enlightenment, this awareness of what is actually going on in the world, you know, we're sensitive beings. Now, because the dark force agenda is just pulling out all the stops and, you know, really kind of laying on these dark force energies kind of thick, us sensitive people, us light workers, we're bearing the brunt of that. We have our eyes open to a world that needs exponential healing. And sometimes it's hard to heal ourselves. So we get in this disposition of, how the hell am I going to heal anyone else when I feel like this, when I feel crummy, when I feel low? Now, granted, we are in eclipse energy, and I feel the need to kind of repeat myself again. And disclaimer, I do realize that I do repeat myself often, and I feel bad about it. I feel like it's monotonous. I am growing a little bit bored with repeating myself, with these forecasts, with these symptoms. But at the same time, there are so many new people being activated, being awoken, if you will, and coming online, that this information is needed for them. And us seasoned light workers, us, you know, that have been going through the many dark nights of the soul, sometimes we need a reminder too. So I complain to my guides all the time. I'm like, really? Like, do I have to continue doing these ascension forecasts? Like, people, you know, people really don't need my guidance. They don't need my help. And I continue to get the rebuttal that, yes, they do. There are new people coming online all the time. And even us, you know, light workers that have been in the trenches and on the battlefield for years, sometimes we need a little bit of a reminder. We need a little bit of a nudge to know that we're not alone. So, you know, sometimes I begrudgingly just sit down and do these forecasts because I know that it is my job. It is in my soul contract, even if I'm not feeling motivated or inspired or like I'm bringing any kind of new information to the forum. So, I mean, with that being said, we are in eclipse season. Eclipse season is a chaotic time. It does bring out a lot of craziness, especially emotionally. Let's keep in mind here that the eclipse energy is due to the moon and the true nodes of the moon, which are on this Taurus and Scorpio axis. Scorpio energy is no joke, people. This is the alchemizer of the zodiac, where we dive into the shadow work. It's ruled over by Pluto, the great transformer who takes us into the belly, the darkness of the darkest realms, in order for us to realize that we have the ability to transform even the darkest situation into light, even the most painful aspects into a source of power. It's just that a lot of people get stuck in that realm of victimhood, of paralysis, because you know what? Pain is not easy. Suffering is not easy. Trauma is not easy. And we're not all awakened yet to the wisdom that we have stored in our bodies, that we have the ability to heal ourselves. So this eclipse energy brings out our shadow part. Why? Because we're not in control. There are so many different layers of what it is that we're not in control over, that this absolutely just devastates the egoic avatar that we all have, because all of us, want to feel like we are in control. Let me tell you, realistically, the only thing that you have control over is how you react or respond to all of the things going on outside of you. You do not have control over your external realm. That is a falsity. That is a vice. That is a way for us to feel safe and secure in a place that we never feel safe and secure in. So we're in eclipse season. Everything is cray cray. We're having this quote unquote depression, this dark night of the soul. A lot of that was due to the moon spending just too many days in Cancer and energy this past week. And that really kind of pulls us inward. It makes us withdraw. It is highly emotional, highly intuitive, but right now the vibe is not right. We've been essentially, like I said, blocked, semi-banned from reaching the higher vibrational frequency realms that many of us have gotten very comfortable living in because they're doing a cleanup. They have won a certain chapter of that war and they're doing a cleanup to kick out all the lower vibrational frequencies and entities from their realm that they now have dominion over and preparing it for us to actually evolve and ascend into. Now, I know that that's a complex type of outlandish statement, but again, this 3D realm is a realm where there are all walks of life. And I mean all walks of life. If you think that humans are the only race inhabiting this earth, you are in for a very, very abrupt awakening. And for many years, the portals to this earth, letting in low vibrational frequencies, they've been wide open. It's only been in the last couple of years that those particular doorways have been closed, meaning that those that are still walking the earth that have no business being here, forcing their very dark agenda onto those that inhabit the earth, they are stuck here. They cannot get back in once they are kicked out. And that's why the quote unquote 1%ers are trying everything that they can right now to roll out their dark force agendas and keep us in a state of fear. Now, let me just tell you that, it is a psychological fact that when you keep people in a state of fear, that they are more easily controlled. And, the world is a scary place. But when you have dark force agendas creating situations that they know will invoke fear, constantly, one after the other, distraction, fear. They want the vibration of the collective to stay low, to stay in this realm of their control. That's why the Great Awakening, you can't stop what is happening and what will happen. The Great Awakening is really threatening for them because they're pulling out all these stops and you still have these groups, this collective of light workers, of people who are awakened and know what's up and know that we're stuck in this, video game or simulation, if you will, this very fear stimulated simulation, if you will. They're pulling out all the stops. So the vibrations, the frequencies are low. But as I kind of spoke about in one of my daily forecasts this week, if you're feeling low, just keep in mind that that's because you just you kind of revived and pushed your vibration and frequency to a very high level. And we know that based off of what our physical body is feeling. So if you're down in the dumps, if you're in a funk, if you're in a depression, if you're sad, if you're overwhelmed, it's a good indication that those dark force energies are coming at you because you reached a level of vibration and frequency so freaking high that they're afraid of what it would be like if you didn't have physical pain, you didn't have emotional and mental anguish and suffering and trauma constantly flashing back and keeping you in a state of fear, state of paralysis, and that's why we have to continue to do the work. We have to show up. We have to get on that battlefield and we have to continue to fight. Because we know their agenda. We know what is happening. And It doesn't make it any easier. I know what's going on, and I still wake up in a funk, and I'm like, oh, Jesus, another day of this, you know? Like I said, you can pull out the sage, and you can pull out the healing vibes and the crystals and all this kind of stuff. Let me be very clear. We are meant to feel low, okay? We live in a dualistic place, a polarized place of energies. The only love and light people that are continuously saying, oh, I feel great, blah, 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 that's spiritual bypassing people, okay? Nothing is love and light. Nothing is high vibes. And if you're constantly seeing, especially with the spiritual community, oh, they frustrate me. If you're seeing these people always constantly talking about love and peace and harmony and high vibes and blah, 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 and manifesting and portals and blah, 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 please just understand that they are not in alignment, okay? They are not in alignment. They are living in a false delusion of their spiritual experience that obviously works from them, but has a huge, huge deficit when people who aren't feeling the high vibes, who aren't feeling the love, who aren't feeling the rainbows and butterflies, people read this stuff, they read this post, they listen to this content, and then they question themselves, well, what is wrong with me? What am I doing wrong? I got the sage, I got the healing vibes, got the crystals, got the cards, do the mantras, do the affirmations, and I still feel low. What is wrong with me? So this is why I try to keep it very real. Shadow work is dealing with the low vibrational energies, the emotions, the mental thoughts, the physical and biological symptoms that come with being a human. Okay, you cannot reach the highest level of consciousness by hope. You have to do the work. You have to get dirty. And this is what this eclipse season is all about. You know, the full moon lunar eclipse in Scorpio that we're about to have here on the 16th is no freaking joke. It's taking place at 25 degrees. So we're in the last decan of the Scorpio energy. And Scorpio energy is about death, rebirth, renewal, resurrection. It is the phoenix. You know, we are essentially right now being burned, okay? Our ego being burned, our physical circumstances being burned. We are literally being triggered and activated to be illuminated to what it is in us that is still low, still painful, still dark, so that we can face that. Because many of us, like I said, eclipse season is about making us face the choices, the decisions that we should have made on our own, under our own free will, that we didn't do, that we tried to run from, that we swept under the rug, that now the universe is in charge of the divine script, and we are being shown what it is that we've been running away from, what it is that we've been trying to distract ourselves, what it is that we've been trying to speak into a lighter, fluffier, romanticized version so that we can make peace with not doing anything about it. Well, the rose-colored glasses are smacked off, my friends. We are facing the dark truth of our lives, of our realities. We are setting these elements on fire to result to a pile of ash that the phoenix will be reborn out of. This is the whole process. But it doesn't feel good. Definitely does not feel good. Now, what I will say is that we will feel a dramatic shift Saturday into Sunday, mostly because we are hitting this first quarter moon in Leo, gonna lighten the vibe up, bring the playful energy back, bring a whole lot of boldness and bravery and courage back, and really kind of give us a different disposition. And you know what? It's happening just 2 days before Mercury goes retrograde. And essentially, this is when our mental planes retreat to the under realms, where we have to deal with a lot of very difficult thoughts, difficult memories, difficult topics, difficult choices, difficult decisions. Why? Because Gemini energy, Mercury rules over Gemini. Mercury's currently in Gemini, going retrograde in Gemini. Gemini energy is dualistic. We have 1 foot in our reality, 1 foot in our dreamland, 1 foot in the ego, 1 foot in the spirit. We have 1 foot in the light, 1 foot in the dark. We have very extreme choices, decisions, and paths unfolding for us in order for us to debate it out, get our heart and head on the same page, get very real with ourselves, and actually find a happy medium, a happy middle ground. And like I said, Jupiter's in the final degrees of Pisces. How could anybody be light and fluffy and happy and go lucky with this kind of energy? The minute that Jupiter shifts into Aries, we are going to feel like aggressive, manic psychopaths just don't know how to stop. And I don't mean psychopaths, but yeah, kind of crazy. We've had enough. This Aries energy likes to create a little bit more of a brand new identity for us to work with that involves strength, that involves boldness and bravery and courage to make a change, to start something new, to step away from the same old, to see what kind of, result we're going to get when we try something different. This is very enterprising energy. We're going to see a huge amount of growth. Yes, we're going to face challenges. We've been facing challenges. We need to rise above. We need to hold our sword very firm. We need to stop whining and crying about it, right? Like, yeah, it's okay to give yourself permission. We don't want to deny that, that fact that we're suffering, that we're having a hard time, but we also don't want to lay around and live there. We want to get up and fight. We want to make something of it. We want to change. We want to do something in spite of these energies. So, the dark force energies triggering all this shadow work is creating the funk, is creating the low mood, is creating this blahness, this depression-ish state. And we will, I'm not going to say we're going to be like the happiest people alive, by the end of next week, but we are going to feel a shift just over this weekend alone. We're going to feel another lighter vibrational shift midweek throughout the week next week. And then we're approaching that full moon lunar eclipse energy, which is going to be hella intense, very freaking passionate, very powerful. And, it's all evolution. This is what the name of the game is we would not change. We would not evolve. We would not transform unless a little bit of pressure was applied to us. And let me just remind you, that's how diamonds are formed. Okay. Under extreme pressure. But diamonds, they're strong, man. They're beautiful and they're strong. And that is the energy that we have to be embodying. So we have all of this dark force agenda crap coming at us. I want to talk about this for a second, and I try not to dabble too much into current events because that seems to get me in trouble on this channel. So I'm going to try to be a little bit cryptic, but let me just say the distraction level that is taking place in the 3D realm in the matrix right now is a test to see what it is that you are going to get consumed with. So let's talk about the Johnny Depp trial for a second, okay? If you don't realize that that is a distraction and that is a master form of manipulation, then you got sucked in. These people are actors. This court case, not even real, okay? This is meant to distract you. This, although, is giving a huge platform for understanding what toxic femininity looks like, what abuse looks like, what substance abuse looks like, what relationship problems look like. They're still celebrities, which means they're still puppets, likely not even human. I hate to even throw this out there, but like they take part in some very dark Luciferian satanic type of rituals, okay? And you have the whole world now distracted by this fake case and in love, idolizing Johnny Depp. Now, from a 3D human perspective, Johnny Depp's pretty cool. I liked his movies. I get his groove. He's dark. He's mysterious. There's a reason for that. But from the 4D, even 5D level, and using your intuition, you have to realize that this is a setup. This is a distraction. They have you idolizing someone that idolizes a quote unquote God that is not for us, okay? And even more than that, they're distracting you from some of the important topics and discussions going on in this 3D realm, such as the Pfizer documents that just came out again with all of the lies, all of the knowledge that they knew, that they had, that they didn't share, injecting all these people with this DNA altering, fertility disrupting drug. You want to talk about fertility? This Roe versus Wade situation. Okay, another big deal, divisive tactic to distract on the 3D realm. Now, I'm not saying that these topics aren't important. They obviously are, but it's another divisive tactic. What you have to understand, the 3D dark force agenda right now is about depopulation. Okay, we see that in many forms. This whole world is literally constructed to kill us. This whole Roe versus Wade thing, if you do not realize that, especially in the United States, that one of the major money makers is fetuses, is babies, you really need to understand the bigger picture going on here, okay? First of all, they don't like to talk about the fact that they grow babies just to harvest the cells, to make the drugs, to make the whatevers, because there's aborted fetal cells in pretty much all of our food. If you're eating GMO food, that's right, take a look, do your research. There is a reason for that. Planned Parenthood is one of the most disgusting and corrupt things out there, okay? They thrive on these, well, first of all, what I would say, women having to be put in positions to make the decision. And you know what? Here's the thing. This is another divisive 3D pro versus con, okay? For, against. This is another 3D tactic to get people angry, to get people divided, and they're doing it very well. Take a look around. You can't even go on social media right now without seeing some kind of divisive conversation. But the whole abortion baby thing is rigged in their favor. They make money off of this. Let's just say, for example, that they make a rule, no abortion. So now you have all of these women, for whatever reasons, having to go full term with these babies. Now, keep in mind, there are some laws being passed that you can abort pretty much a full term baby at this point. And Planned Parenthood and some of the other pharmaceutical companies love this. It means money in their pocket. Now, let's just say that some of these babies get to full term, they get birthed, and then they get put into the system. Well, that's even better. Now they can experiment on them. Now they can put them in, human trafficking rings. Now they can do all their experiments on these children that are basically owned by the government. It's a win-win for them. And what's even more of a win-win for them is that they have everybody angry and pitted against each other, creating these low vibrational frequencies, this anger frequency, this fear frequency, and they're still winning, right? So this is why I get frustrated, because I don't understand why people can't see what is happening. I don't understand how so many people get sucked into these divisive traps. I don't understand why people can't see that everything that is happening right now that is in your face because of social media, because of the mainstream media, they're all owned by the same people. They're all the same people profiting off of this. Whether it is your energy or it is your money, they are profiting off of this. And this is the name of the 3D matrix game, to keep you stuck here. And this is why we have to have wide open eyes. We have to use our intuition. We have to tap into the higher force realms, to our higher selves. We need to get to the bottom of the truth. And the only truth that you're going to get to the bottom of is the truth that resonates with you inside of you when you attach yourself to the higher realms, because you are not going to get the truth from any kind of external source. Everyone is divided. Everyone is in pain. Everyone is fear mongering. And these dark force agendas, they are monopolizing on the energetic reaction, on the emotional reaction, the mental reaction, the physical reaction, in dividing us even further. Like everything that was built in this 3D realm was meant to divide. And the minute that we understand that we are essentially slaves to these higher beings that have created this division to feed off of our energy, the minute that we can flip this whole freaking game over and we can unify in spite of all that, because that's the only way that we can get out of this energy enslavement process. Okay, we are energetic beings that they are harvesting and siphoning off of. They take our energy. They want us in these lower vibrational energies and frequencies. That's why when you get triggered and you go to that state of anger, you go to that state of fear or aggression or whatever the case may be, the lower vibrational frequencies of our emotions, they win. That's what they want. That's why when we're in these particular points and times where there's a high vibrational frequency coming in that gives us the ability to manifest a different reality, a higher vibration, a higher frequency of self, they come at us with all these storylines, with all these divisive tactics in order for us to not raise our vibration and frequency to the frequencies needed in order to unify, create peace and harmony, and instead keep us in the lower realms of emotion and mental thoughts that they get empowered by. So it comes down to us, and that's why I say the only thing that you have control over is how you react and how you respond to the things going on in the external realm. I want to talk about another trigger that is likely going to set us off in this coming week, which is Mother's Day. So happy Mother's Day to those of you out there celebrating it. The reason why I say it's a huge trigger is because many of us have huge mother wounds. Okay? Huge mother wounds. Now, let me just say, as someone who lost both of their children and cannot have children, Mother's Day is a sore spot for me. I absolutely hate the day. And on top of that, I have a huge mother wound. My mother is my greatest teacher in this realm, and not in the best way. It has been a constant evolvement of working on the relationship with my mother. God love her, God bless her soul. I do not come from a lineage where the feminine energy was healthy, loving, and supportive, okay? So Hallmark doesn't make cards for those kinds of mothers that don't fit the mother role, the mother realm. And it is absolutely, especially with social media, you don't know, I mean, you almost feel obligated to go on and do a shout out to your mom to show a picture or whatever. Listen, there are people without moms. There are people without kids. There are people with moms that are absolute monsters. There are people that have beautiful mother and daughter, mother and child, mother and son relationships. Okay? There are people out there. But what happens is that those of us that have mother wounds, we get triggered, we get activated because we don't have that. So now, we're sitting in a social media dictated world where obligatory posts, what kind of kid are you if you don't make a Mother's Day post, right? What kind of person are you if you don't involve the dog moms or the goldfish moms or the moms that lost babies or the moms that, don't have their kids or the crap, the list goes on. The thing about what's going on in this day and age is that trying to be inclusive is excluding so many people and making so many people feel bad. And I see this time and time again with, certain celebrations, certain days like Mother's Day, Father's Day, the whole daddy wound issue is a whole thing too that we'll have to rip off and deal with in a month or two. I can't remember. Is it June or July? I think it's June. Anyways, we'll do this all again next month when the daddy issue day comes up. But my point is that we're in eclipse season, which is highly emotional, bringing out our shadow self, showing our inner child and our adult version and where we have failed to nurture ourselves to a place of happiness and healthy contentment because we didn't have the right people positioned in our life in order to provide that certain stability within us. And we have all this energy coming at us in eclipse season, in retrograde season. Mother's Day this year, we want to talk about oxymorons or, conflicting energies or whatever the case may be. Mother's Day lands on a Sunday. Sunday is ruled over by the sun, which is masculine energy. And we have the moon, which is the mother energy. We have the moon in Leo. And of course, the sun rules over Leo in masculine energy, aggressive, ego, identitive energy, the father energy. And we have our first quarter moon in Leo where the moon squares the sun, creating a huge inner conflict between our heart, our head, our will, our identity, our mental plane, our emotional sense. So we got a lot coming at us on a day that is highly triggersome for a whole lot of group of people. The mother wound is a huge wound in our collective right now. And that is nobody's fault. That is nobody's fault. And I say that with all honesty. It is the evolution of enlightenment. It is the process that we all had to go through. I'm almost 40. So, my parents are in the 65 to 70 range. And they are the generation where, doing your 9 to 5 and getting absolutely hossified on the weekend was the thing to do. And you can numb your pain. And we don't want to talk about our feelings. So here, take a bottle of Prozac. That is the generation that they are. And they have wounds because their parents were the generations where you didn't even talk about feelings. You just smiled because you went to work and you had a paycheck and, the woman stayed in the kitchen and the man worked and all that kind of stuff. So when you look at generational trauma, when you look at generational evolution, it's technically nobody's fault. But we have to learn from it. We have to be aware of it. We have to do better. I think that the generations that are coming up are on the opposite spectrum, in an extreme almost, because they're, I'm not going to say too sensitive, but they get caught up in a lot more situations where the victim mentality is almost supported for them to be living in, because compared to the generations that came previous to us, they're a lot more open with their feelings. They want to deal with mental health issues. They're not as quote unquote tough out in the world dealing, with the circumstances that generations before us have dealt with. And this brings us back to another point. That's why it's important to do your own individual healing. When you do your own individual healing, you are healing the DNA of your family. Generational trauma is a thing. It's passed down in your DNA. If you are a female, you are born with eggs in you that will last your lifetime, that were created while you were in your mother. And that DNA was connected to your grandmother, and her DNA was connected to your great-grandmother. The DNA is a biological factor and a disposition to your karma that you are here to sort out. And many of us, especially if you're tuning in, you're a light worker, many of us have, I'm not going to say have been nominated, because our higher self nominated ourselves to come here and do the work, to be the link in the chain that we break so that the generational trauma stops with us. And that's why, again, the weight of the world is as heavy as it is on us at this time, because we are recycling through past traumas in order to make it right, to integrate it, to heal it to the best of our abilities, because the trauma has to stop with us. So when we talk about generational trauma, we talk about the Cancer in energy. And the moon was in Cancer for like 3 days this past week. That's when we felt over emotional and heavy and weighted and sick to our stomach, because of course, stomach issues come from A, the moon, but B, Cancer in energy. We are feeling the weight of the world on our shoulders right now, creating a lot of tension in our necks, in our backs. We're having spasms in our backs. Again, last week we talked about the recalibration process, that the Kundalini energy that many of us have been successful in bringing up from the base of our spine to our pineal gland, activating that Christ consciousness. It doesn't stay there. I think this is another falsity that gets thrown around too much in the spiritual community, is that like once you reach a level of enlightenment that you just stay there. No, it's a constant up and down battle. You reach a point of enlightenment, of happiness, of peace and joy, and then you get sucked back down into the depths of pain and darkness and trauma to work your ass out of there again. Every single time you reach a new level of enlightenment, wisdom, awareness, then you get sucked back down into these darker force agendas to see if you can apply that wisdom and knowledge to get yourself out of that funk quicker than it took you the first time. So we have this recalibration going on in our spine. And this recalibration going on in our spine is due to the light codes that are coming in the spinal fluid that, of course, is coursing through our bodies. Our DNA is the highest form of information and messages that we can possibly have in our body. That's why they're after your DNA, okay? I just read something about Blackstone and Vanguard now, going after and basically buying out the Ancestry.com thing. That's a scary thing for all the wrong reasons. And you need to protect your DNA. And also, not that I want to talk about this, but it's been coming up more and more lately, so I feel the need to say this. If you are Rh negative, you need to keep that to yourself. You are being hunted. You do not want to publicize what your Rh factor is, especially out in public, especially on the internet. This is not something fancy to talk about. It's not something novel. It bears a great weight and a great, great karmic responsibility. You want to keep that hushed up real tight, okay? Too many people out in this realm of social media talking about their DNA, which you absolutely shouldn't. You want to keep that as tight as your bank account and your SIN number, okay? Your social and security number for those of you in the States. You want to keep that real close. You don't want to share that, okay? Especially out in a public forum. You also, there's many people out there just openly telling people about their birth chart, specific degrees and houses and placements. Like, people, this is private information. You have to understand that your birth chart can be used against you. And there are people out there, dark force, energy, agenda people out there looking to work against you. This is not okay. The spiritual community gets on my freaking nerves. This is half the reason why I want to just quit it all and cancel my channel and delete my website, because I hate being chunked up with these people that push danger. The amount of people out there doing spell work that have no business doing spell work, working with crystals that they're not even aligned with, opening portals, requesting, assistance from gods that they're not even inherently aligned with. Like, this is why the world is cray-cray, okay? Because you got irresponsible people that have a huge influence over a huge group of people that are not giving the full story on how to protect yourself, on how to deal with ancestors, how to have proper spiritual hygiene, how to deal with crystals and spell works and candle works and moon magic properly in a safe manner. So you have all these people thinking that it's a cool thing to do, just going willy-nilly with no boundaries, no alignment, not even the right vibe to even be doing this work, going willy-nilly, and then we wonder why there are literally demons crawling out of the earth and scouring our land and just creating chaos here, right? Like, the whole spiritual community to me just, it triggers me. And you know what? We're in the name of the game right now, being triggered, being activated, and being disconnected from the higher realms is not helping. This is why many of us are having these emotional and mental breakdowns, because we can't gain a clear vision. Our intuition isn't as strong as we would want it to be to provide us with the guidance and the clarity that we absolutely need in this state of chaos. Again, eclipse season is about chaos. We will create order out of this chaos, but it ain't happening today. It ain't happening tomorrow. It likely will not be happening for about another month or so. So, the dark force energies are out. You're seeing that in trolls, okay? So many people. You just look on social media. You can see the dark trolls just working for the dark force agendas like you wouldn't believe. Like my inbox over the past 3 days, popping off with the craziest ass people I have ever even heard of in my life. And trust me, I've heard from some crazy ass people, especially in this quote unquote industry or community, whatever the hell you want to call it. There are some novel type of energies out there. And let me just tell you, I've had rude, ignorant, mean, psychopathic, cray kinds of people just come out of the woodwork for no good reason, spending a lot of time and energy writing me emails that I don't even give an F about, has nothing to do with me, just to spit their hate, to spit their divisive tactics, to spit their egoic agenda on you. And I don't know, like, you know, it does to a certain point trigger me, but I'm also experienced enough in the game where if you write me a chapter book, I'm probably not even reading it. I'll scroll down to the bottom because that's usually when people get to the point. And if it's not of a vibe or a frequency that I want to mess with, I delete. I'm moving on. You ain't going to hear from me. I am not being a part of your circus freak show. Not happening. But just, I know with some of my clients saying, you know, like, people coming out of the woodwork and family fighting with them and strangers just making rude ass comments on their social media or whatever the case may be. This is how you know that you have raised your vibration and frequency, because the dark force agenda comes for you. You know, if you weren't doing anything good, the devil would not be coming after you. Okay. He'd be leaving you alone. And if you were doing all kinds of bad that was in the devil's favor, you would never hear from him. Right? It's only when you are doing good. It is only when you are making a change. It is only when you are raising your vibration frequency that you see these dark force, dark ass energies come at you, because they want to bring you back down to their level. We ain't going to let it happen. We know their game. We ain't playing their games. We're not having it. So although you might want to wake up and choose violence, we have to do better. And it's painful. It's painful to be the bigger person. It's painful to constantly be the person that has to do the right thing, to be in the awareness to the state of the vibration and the frequency of love and peace and understanding. It is hard because there is that human aspect that, of course, is alive and well, because we are humans at the end of the day, that just wants to pop off, that just wants to show a MFer who is boss, throw down, like the old part of me that was very much alive and in charge and acted like that. She wants to come out and play sometimes, because you know what? Honest to God, some people deserve a good smack in their mouth, okay? There are people that will pop off at you, and you will just think to yourself, how did you ever make it this far in your life without having the absolute crap just beat out of you? And you know what? I have to decide for myself each and every day, and I'm going to welcome you to do that. Is it your job to teach those people that lesson? No. What kind of karma are you going to incur to be that teacher for that particular lesson? Karma you don't want, okay? We have to rise above. It is not as fun, let me say, it is not as fun, nor is it easy to be the bigger person. But when you have the enlightenment, the awareness of what's going on, when you can see, acting as the observer, these dark force agendas, these trolls coming out just to kind of activate you, trigger you, get a raw, angry, fearful response out of you, that's just because they want you to worship their God, who feeds off of the lower vibrational frequencies that the emotions such as anger and fear and aggression invoke in all of us. We want to stick to the higher realms, the higher vibrations and frequencies, the higher emotions that override those negative frequencies, and we do not feed into feeding those gods with those particular energy sources. So hopefully our energy source will kind of pick up a little bit once we see Jupiter move into Aries. We should all be feeling a little bit of pick me up. But like I said, it's kind of extreme. We're coming out of this Piscean energy. We're hitting the ground running in this Aries energy. We're very explosive, very aggressive, probably a little bit manic. We have to understand that the biggest life lesson that comes with this Aries energy is energy management. We want to dive into something, but we don't want to burn ourselves out. And, you know, just a heads up, Jupiter, it will be retrograding in a couple of months and creeping back into Piscean energy for quite a bit. So, we're only going to get a taste of this. We're going to get a foundation set. We're going to bring things to life. We're going to rise to the challenge. We are going to see new beginnings be initiated, a whole bunch of growth, a whole bunch of expansion. And then we get sucked back into the Piscean energy for us to really bring things full circle and heal a little bit of the wounds that we're going to have to accumulate when we just put our head down and start ramming through the challenges and the obstacles that we have to ram through in order to actually get to the other end. And we'll explore that. As we get to the point where Jupiter is going to retrograde, and we're going to have to backtrack through these first initial degrees of Aries. So with the energy change, I think that will be a welcome aspect for many of us. This will likely lighten the mood in our dreamscape as well. We've been working hard, man, in our dreams. Wow, I wake up in the morning just as exhausted as I was going to bed because the work that we're doing in the other realms is just exponential. And, if you are connected to the higher realms and you feeling the disconnect in your waking lives of not being able to access those higher realms, we're definitely accessing those higher realms in our dream state, but it's absolutely sucking the life out of us and making it very hard for us to move through our day-to-day life, our waking life, with any kind of energy, any kind of positivity, any kind of focus. But again, that should be shifting mid-week. With that, food changes are going to take place as well. Now, this is always a hot level topic when I say that you shouldn't eat meat, because yes, I do understand that the physical form does require life force energies that do come from meat. I get it. But what I think some people are missing is that when you vibrate to a high enough frequency, when you've essentially collapsed the 3D timeline and storyline and construct of your life and you move into the higher realms, you literally will not be able to eat meat. Okay. This isn't even really a choice. Your body will reject it. The reason why I'm bringing this up, because I take a lot of heat every single time I say that you shouldn't be eating meat. And let me be very clear. The meat that you're buying in the grocery store is loosely even called meat. Okay. If you are dealing with farmers that how the cattle is raised, or how the animals are raised, what's going into it, that they're happy, that they get to freely roam, that it's all organic, there's no antibiotics, there's no extra things pumped in and growth hormones and all this kind of stuff, then we're talking about a different situation. But the majority of people get their meat from the grocery store. And let me tell you, you would never eat meat again if you knew what that meat actually was and what was actually in it and what it actually did to your body. And through the process of healing yourself, the healing journey, the ascension journey, transiting into the crystalline form of our DNA and moving away from the carbon-based, you will not be eating meat. Your body will get sick eating meat, especially the grocery store meat. There will come a time and a place where you will no longer be able to digest meat. And, not that I want to give it into a whole biological rant here, but our bodies, because of the environment that we now live in, our bodies do not digest meat fast enough for it to not rot inside of us, okay? Many people have digestive issues because of the amount of meat that they eat, that they do not pass in time, and therefore have rotting in their guts, all right? There are many reasons why I continue to talk about meat. And I feel like through this eclipse energy, by the time we come out of this eclipse energy, many people will be like, damn, I can't even swallow this anymore. This grosses me out. And you know what? That is a good indication that you just raised your vibration, you just raised your frequency. But our diets are constantly changing. We do require more life force energy foods that, are greens and vegetables and fruits. That is the way to go. Eventually, and I'm not even talking like sci-fi here, eventually we will not need food in the context in which we call food right now. There is an energetic shift that happens when we reach the highest levels of vibrations and frequencies that our biological body can actually get into. You will not need to eat. You will not need to eat very much, and you sure as hell will be eating things of the earth. Any processed food, any meat products, they'll be gone. It will not happen. And that's just the natural evolution. Now, let me just say, if you are currently eating meat, there's nothing wrong with you, okay? I'm not against you. I'm just saying, pay attention to your body, because your body is constantly changing. The more energy coming in, the more light codes we download within us is changing the biological structure of what it is that your body is able to process. And meat and processed foods and white sugar are the number one things that you need to be focused on. Like if you're still eating dairy, I don't know, you're harming yourself. Okay. Dairy, not good. Meat, not good. Processed food, not good. Sugar, not good. So yeah, I'm not saying anything against you if you're still in that process, but all I'm saying is that if you're still eating those things and consuming those things, you're going to need to pay a lot more attention to your physical body than some other people are, because we're about to go through another major shift in our biological form that will have our diets changing. You will feel that based off of the film in your mouth, based off of the mucus that is being dispelled from your bodies, based off of the nails changing. Your nails might be a little bit more brittle. They might, have ridges in them. Those are all indications of dietary upset. You want to pay attention to your hair. Now, when I talk about hair, a lot of people say, oh my goodness, I'm losing so much hair. That is almost a good thing. Our hair stores all of our emotional trauma in it. And, our ancestors, after a huge loss or somebody passed away or whatever, that is a ritual that they would go into, is to cut all their hair off. It's like a clean slate, a fresh start. So, biologically speaking, if you're losing so much hair that like you have spots on your head and you're going bald, like, yeah, you have a biological issue going on there. But we are going to see large amounts of hair fall out, especially after this eclipse season, because we no longer have to keep these memories, these DNA memory codes in our head, in our body. The oils in our skin are changing. We're seeing that in our hair as well. And, because we are going through a high vibrational frequency where there's a lot of energy coming in from our crown, we're seeing the changes to our hair, to the oils in our hair at a dramatic rate. I want to talk about the crown for a second, because we are going to have, like, many of us are already feeling that brain fog. Like, we're like, who am I? What's going on? Where am I at? What was I doing? What did I come here for? All these questions. That's very much Mercury in Gemini preparing to go retrograde. That's likely not going to get better. We're looking at about a month before we're going to have any kind of mental clarity whatsoever. And it's likely going to peak to an intense point of pure and utter confusion. And what I'm going to say to you is lean all the way into it, because from confusion comes great amount of clarity. Just like from chaos comes great amount of order. But right now we're in the confusion and the chaos state. We got to ride with it. We got to roll with it. Again, I recommend rolling instead of being dragged. And you know what? We're having a hard time connecting to our higher self, which is making it difficult. We're also having a hard time deep breathing. Why? Because this Piscean energy, it's water energy, right? It's really amplifying the pressure on our emotions, on our heart chakra. We have a lot of heart chakra activations going on, and it's making it harder to breathe. It's making it harder to take in full, deep breaths. Many of us stuck in shallow breathing, which is only creating anxiety in our biological form. We have to bust free of that. You have to get your breath work into a practice, into a discipline. It is how we release trauma. It's how we move through trauma. It's how we bring energy into our bodies. You got to work on your breath work. The throat chakra is popping off. Many of us having throat issues, sore throat, losing your voice, needing to clear your throat. Well, I'm going to ask you, is there something you're biting your tongue on? Do you feel like you should be saying something out loud that you're hesitating to? Because the more you repress and hold in the truth that you should be letting out, the more ailments you're going to find in your throat chakra. Especially, we're coming to this first quarter moon in Leo, which is very expressive, very entertaining, the storyteller of the zodiac. We have things that we need to get off of our heart space, our soul space, which is what Leo is all about. We've gone through a dramatic shift. We've had some rapid changes take place in our families, in our relationship areas, in ourselves. And it's time, even if we don't know the words to say or how to put them together in a way that makes sense, we still got to get the energy outside of us. Having thoughts and having emotions kept inside your physical form, they bounce around like a pinball machine. And that only creates an agitated activation state, which in turn is going to come out in all the wrong ways, all the lower vibrational emotions and thoughts. And of course, feed the dark force God that we have no intention on wanting to keep alive and keeping powerful. So again, we have to do a little bit more of the inner work necessary to make sure that we are speaking our truth, that we are letting things out, that we're not containing all this energy in our bodies just ready to kind of lose it and explode and give the dark force agenda exactly what they want, what they are after. So guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm in a ranty, agitated, aggravated kind of mood. And I feel like I've touched on enough to at least inspire you or activate you, to push you into maybe doing a little bit more research, a little bit more knowledge and exploration within yourself. Just know that we're all in this together. We're all feeling this cluster F of energy together. We are all being bombarded with these 3D distractions and activations together. And once again, we are going to get through this together. So I want to thank you for showing up, not just for me, but for yourself. I want to thank you for showing love to yourself. I want to thank you for showing love to me. I want to thank you for showing love to each other. Even when you wake up in a funk, even when you're activated, even when you're triggered, there's still a lot of love to give. So just remember that we always have a choice and that the only thing that you can control is how you react and how you respond to these dark force agendas coming at you in the external realm. I'm sending you nothing but love, and we'll talk to you soon.